Scientists and quantum physicists have proven that every human being has about 60,000 thoughts per day. 60,000! Wow! About 70% are fleeting, incidental thoughts, 27% negative, destructive thoughts, and only 3% positive, uplifting, creative thoughts. Wait a minute, 27% negative? That's over 16,000 negative thoughts a day. That's insane. These thoughts influence our state of mind from which fears can arise. The fear in us humans can have many reasons. We are afraid of illness and death. We are afraid of loneliness, of lack of money, of being abandoned. We are afraid of certain animals, of losing our jobs, of failing, of not being good enough, of aging. Fear that something might happen to people we love. We are afraid of change. Change means uncertainty. Uncertainty involves risk. We are never rich enough, so we sacrifice our physical and mental health to make more and more money. We are never beautiful enough, so we spend so much money in beauty products, plastic surgery, etc. to become more and more beautiful in our view. Each of us deals with these fears very differently. We flee, avoid certain situations, become aggressive, freeze, or we deal with what scares us. The usual coping mechanisms are alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, food, entertainment such as video games, television, social media. But these are coping strategies where we escape from the fear. By doing so, we only shift the problem. Either we develop inappropriate behavior patterns. For example, we compensate for insecurity with aggression or passivity, or our emotions overtake us and render us incapable of action. However, it is not external events that trigger fears, but our mind. Anxieties are produced in our minds when we overthink and ruminate until those anxieties manifest into physical symptoms. So, how we can better manage our fears? The next 3 tips will help you. Tip 1. Mindfulness. Before we go into this, we need to get to know our mind better. The Buddhists describe our mind as a monkey mind. It is constantly in motion, back and forth. One thought comes and goes, the next one is already there. One problem we have with the monkey mind is that we do believe in it. It is just that our mind very often fools us. We forget that our mind is a great producer of fantasies about the future and also tells us a lot of nonsense about the past. If we stay very much in the past with our thoughts and keep ruminating about painful memories, or our thoughts keep circling around the future, what bad things could happen to us, and we are not in the here and now, then worries, fears, and discomfort arise, and we are not present. The only unfortunate thing is that we don't always realize this and usually live in a kind of autopilot mode. This is where mindfulness can be of great help to us. The Buddha said, "Do not dwell on the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." What goes in our mind may have a greater impact on our well-being than what we actually do or experience in a given moment. A popular Buddhist metaphor describes mindfulness very well. In the case of a forest lake, which is constantly churned by wind and rain, the water is in motion and clouded by sediment, and one cannot see the bottom of the lake. However, you cannot calm the lake by acting on the water. Any such attempt would make the water more turbulent and exacerbate the problem. The only way to clear the water is to sit patiently, watch the lake, and wait for the sediment to settle and the water to clear. This patient attention is called mindfulness. It is one of the basic pillars of Buddhist meditation. The real purpose of meditation is not to quiet the mind, but to train the mind to see things as they really are. Relaxing the mind is a nice byproduct of meditation. When we are mindful, we focus all of our attention on everything we are experiencing at that moment. Thoughts, feelings, sensations, without judging, interpreting, analyzing, or following them. Thoughts will always come back. In meditation, we learn to change the way we deal with them. Professor Jon Kabat-Zinn puts it in a nutshell. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. In meditation, we try not to fight fears because fighting fears will create more fears. Meditation is a way to focus on the present moment and observe your thoughts and sensations as they pass, like clouds, instead of dealing with them or following them. This presence is a state of highest alertness and awareness. A good start to mindfulness meditation is to focus on your own breath. Mindfulness can be developed through practice. We can also think of it as a muscle that we exercise. The more often we practice, the better we feel. And the better you feel, the sooner you realize, I am not the fear, and fear does not have to rule my life. Through mindfulness, we will then notice that fear is not always there. It is different degrees of strength. It comes and goes. It is impermanent, like other feelings. Through regular practice, it leads more to a state of calm and relaxation deep within us. This calmness will then be available to us when we have to deal with concrete problems, threats, or crises. Worries and fears will then lose more and more of their power. If we look at thoughts only as thoughts and consciously do not react to their content and emotional substance, this frees us a little from their power. Observe and let go. Observe and let go. The attention is thus less captured, because now we see only thoughts and no longer reality or truth. If we manage to realize that we are not our thoughts and feelings, this will help us to come to our inner balance. Fear, anxiety, and panic are no longer uncontrollable demons, but normal states of mind that we can deal with and accept. Instead of being taken over by fear, we learn to emerge from its grip more freely and naturally. The Buddha described it this way: we are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. Tip number 2. Reduce your input. If mindfulness is patient attention, it means in reverse that the multitude of information and impressions creates a lack of attention. Here, we can counteract by reducing our input of information overload and not letting so much garbage into our minds. After all, the 60,000 thoughts per day are also strongly influenced by our input. If a lot of crap comes in, a lot of crap will come out. This includes, for example, news, talk shows, social media, constantly checking emails and text messages, gossip, etc. You can incorporate some quiet media-free time here, for example, the first half hour to hour in the morning, without using your smartphone. In the evening, it can also be very helpful to build in a media-free time half an hour to an hour before going to bed by leaving the TV off and putting the smartphone aside until the next day. This alone allows us to start and end the day without direct input and lots of information for our minds, creating certain oases of silence. The Buddhist monk and philosopher Thich Nhat Hanh described it this way: we must live in such a way that we stop consuming the things that poison us and harm us. Then we will have the strength for the best in us to grow, and we will no longer be victims of our anger and frustration. What's your strategy to combat worry and anxiety? Let me know in the comments. Tip number 3. The Stoic Reserve Clause. The Stoic teacher Epictetus told his students to perform every action with thoughtfulness and a mental reserve clause. In essence, this means that in every action we are aware and calmly accept that we do not have complete control over the outcome. This can take the form of a reservation, such as if nothing interferes, if fate permits. This states that we act, but at the same time we renounce making assumptions about the possible outcome of that action. It's called the reserve clause for the very reason that we reserve our expectation for things over which we have control. We pursue a particular outcome with the reservation that we can only influence the outcome to a limited extent. In Cicero's dialogue De Finibus, the Roman Stoic hero Cato the Younger uses the example of an archer or spear thrower to explain the reserve clause. The archer can only control to aim and shoot his arrow skillfully. Whether the arrow hits the target is then no longer in his power. He can only give his best by aiming as well as he can, shooting the arrow as well as he can. In this analogy, it is a matter of giving one's best, but not getting upset or afraid if the target is not reached, because then it is no longer in our control. It's just about focusing on the things that you can control and giving your best possible here. Because when we have given our best possible, we have done everything in our power. We cannot do more. The rest is then no longer completely in our power, and we will accept it with equanimity, whether success or failure. This view helps us to focus only on what we have in our power, and this, as a consequence, takes away many unnecessary worries and fears. Epictetus sums it up: to make the best of what lies within our power and deal with everything else as it comes. All these tips require a lot of practice. It is important that we turn these suggestions into daily habits and bring along the patience that it takes some time until positive effects appear, but it will definitely be worth it. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel, and more importantly, share the video with someone who can benefit from this content. Thank you and stay inspired.